Heredity and evolution. Heredity and hereditary changes, transcription, translation, and translocation. Evolution. Evidences of evolution. Darwin's theory of natural selection. Lamarckism. Speciation. Human evolution. Which component of the cellular nucleus of living organisms carries hereditary characters? What do we call to the process of transfer of physical and mental characters from parents to the progeny? Which are the components the DNA molecule? Heredity and hereditary changes. You know that heredity is the transfer of biological characters from one generation to another via genes. Gregor Johann Mendel is pioneer of the modern genetics. It took a long time to understand the conclusions of his research about heredity. In 1901, the reasons behind his sudden changes were understood due to the mutational theory of Hugo de Vries. Meanwhile, in 1902, Walter Sutton observed the paired chromosomes in the cells of grasshopper. Until then, it was not known to anyone. Research started in the direction of finding the nature of genetic material when it was proved that genes are carried via chromosomes, through which 944 trio of scientists Oswald Avery, Macklin McCarty and Colin MacLeod proved that except viruses, all living organisms have DNA as genetic material. In 1961, the French geneticists François Jacob and Jacques Monod proposed a model for process of protein synthesis with the help of DNA in bacterial cells. It helped to uncover the genetic codes hidden in DNA. Thereby, the technique of recombinant DNA technology emerged, which has vast scope in the field of genetic engineering. The science of heredity is useful for diagnosis, treatment and prevention of hereditary disorders, production of hybrid varieties of animals and plants and in industrial processes in which microbes are used. Transcription, translation and translocation. Sketch and explain the structure of DNA and various types of RNA. Explain the meaning of genetic disorders and give names of some disorders. With the help of RNA, the genes present in the form of DNA participate in the functioning of cell and thereby control the structure and functioning of the body. Information about protein synthesis is stored in the DNA and synthesis of appropriate proteins as per requirement is necessary for body. These proteins are synthesized by DNA through the RNA. This is called as central dogma. mRNA is produced as per the sequence of nucleotides on DNA. Only one of the two strands of DNA is used in this process. The sequence of nucleotides in mRNA being reduced is always complementary to the DNA strand used for synthesis. Besides, there is racial in RNA instead of thymine of DNA. This process of RNA synthesis is called as transcription. The mRNA formed in nucleus comes in cytoplasm. It brings in the coded message from DNA. The message contains the codes for amino acids. The code for each amino acid consists of 3 nucleotides. It is called as triplet codon. Dr. Hargobind Khorana, a scientist of Indian origin, has made an important contribution in discovery of triplet codons for 20 amino acids. For this work, he has been awarded with the Nobel Prize in 1968, along with 2 other scientists. Each mRNA is made up of thousands of triplet codons. As per the message on mRNA, amino acids are supplied by the trunner. For this purpose, trunner has anticodon, having complementary sequence to the codon on mRNA. This is called as translation. The amino acids brought in by RNA are bonded together by peptide bonds with the help of RNA. During this process, the ribosome keeps on moving from one end of mRNA to other end by the distance of one triplet codon. This is called as translocation. Such many chains come together to form complex proteins. These proteins control various functions in the body of living organisms and their appearance too. Living organisms can produce new individuals like themselves due to genes only, and some of those genes are transmitted to the next generation without any changes. Due to this, some of the characters of parents are transmitted to their offsprings. However, sometimes sudden changes occur in those genes. Sometimes, any nucleotide of the gene changes its position that causes a minor change, which is nothing but the mutation. Some mutations may be minor, but some may be considerable. X mutation may cause the genetic disorders like sickle cell anemia. What is the function of the appendix of our digestive system? Are our wisdom teeth really useful for chewing the food? Why did the huge animals like dinosaur become extinct? Evolution 4. Why are many species of animals and birds getting extinct? Evolution is the gradual change occurring in living organisms over a long duration. This is a very slow going process through which development of organisms is achieved. All the stages and changes occurred in various components ranging from stars and planets in space to the biosphere present on the Earth should be included in the study of evolution. Formation of new species due to changes in specific characters of several generations of living organisms as a response to natural selection is called as evolution. 3. 5 billion years ago, life had been non-existent on the Earth. At the beginning, there may have been only simple elements in the ocean on the Earth, and simple type of organic and inorganic compounds may have been formed from those. Complex compounds like proteins and nucleic acids may have formed over the long period from those simpler peak into history compounds. First primitive type of cells may many philosophers and religious scholars have been formed from the mixture of different have written their views about formation of types of organic and inorganic compounds. Life. There seems to be a thorough discussion number of those cells may have increased it over the formation of universe, in various the cost of surrounding chemicals. There may cultures like Indian, Chinese, Roman, had been some differences among those cells Greek, etc. Various cultures have noted, and according to the principle of natural different type of information about planets, selection, some may have shown good growth stars, the Panchmahabhuta, living, and some may have perished which could not organisms, etc. In the form of poetry, stories adjust with the surrounding, and religious sacred books. At present, crores of species of plants and animals with huge diversity regarding shape theory of evolution and complexity are present on the Earth. According to this theory, first living material animal diversity ranges from the unicellular protoplasm has been formed in ocean. In amoeba and paramecium to man and giant due course of time, unicellular organism was whale. The plant diversity consists of various formed. Gradually, changes occurred in the species ranging from unicellular chlorella to unicellular organisms from which larger and the huge banyan tree. The life exists on Earth, more complex organisms were formed. All everywhere from equator to both the poles. Those changes were slow and gradual. Duration organisms are present at all the places. Like of all these changes is at most 300 crore years. air, water, land, rock, etc. Humans have changes in development in living organisms shown curiosity about origin of life and had been all-round and multi-dimensional reasons for such a great diversity in life, and this led to evolution of different types present on the earth since ancient period of organisms. Hence, this overall process is different theories about origin and evolution called as evolution, which is organizational of life, have been proposed till today, of which progressive development of plants and animals theory of gradual development of living from the ancestors having different structural organisms is accepted, and functional organization is called evolution. Evidences of evolution. Collective thinking upon all above mentioned theories implies that evolution is everlasting process of changes. However, it needs proof to prove it. Following are various proofs available in support of the theories mentioned above. Morphological evidences. Observe the following images and note the similarities between given animal images and plant images. Various similarities like structure of mouth, position of eyes, structure of nostrils and ear pinnae and thickly distributed hairs on body are seen in animals, whereas similarities in characters like leaf shape, leaf venation, leaf petiole, etc. occur in case of plants. This indicates that there are some similarities in those groups, and hence it proves that their origin must be same and 1. 4 morphological evidences must have common ancestors. 2. Anatomical evidences. If you carefully observe the pictures, there doesn't seem any superficial similarity between human hand, foreleg of ox, flipper of whale and patagium of bat. Similarly, use of each of those structures is different in respective animals. However, there is similarity in structure of bones and joints and organs of each of those animals. This similarity indicates that those animals may have common ancestor. Degenerated or underdeveloped useless organs of organisms are called as vestigial organs. In living organisms, sudden development of new tissues or organs for living in changing environment is not possible. Instead, existing organs undergo gradual changes. Mostly, a specific structure in the body is useful under certain situation. However, same structure under different situation may become useless or even harmful. Such structure begins to degenerate under such situation as per the principle of natural selection. It takes thousands of years for a structure to disappear. Such organs are seen in different phases of disappearance in different animals. Such organ, though non-functional in certain organism, it may be functional in other organisms. A. It is not vestigial in other organisms. Appendix, which is useless to human, is useful and fully functional organ in ruminants. Similarly, muscles of ear pinna, which are useless to human, are useful in monkeys for movement of ear pinna. Various vestigial organs like tailbone, coccyx, wisdom teeth, and body hairs are present in body of human being. 4. Paleontological evidences. A question may arise in your mind that which organisms existed millions of years ago. How can we tell this? Now this secret has been hidden in the earth. Large number of organisms get buried due to disasters like flood, earthquake, volcano, etc. Remnants and impressions of such organisms remain preserved underground. These are called as fossils. Study of fossils is an important aspect of study of evolution. Carbon consumption of animals and plants stops after death, and since then, only the decaying process of C14 occurs continuously. In case of dead bodies of plants and animals, instead of remaining constant, the ratio between C14 and C12 changes continuously as C12 is non-radioactive. The time passed since the death of a plant or animal can be calculated by measuring the radioactivity of C14 and ratio of C14 to C12 present in their body. This is carbon dating method. It is used in paleontology and anthropology for determining the age of human fossils and manuscripts. Once the age of fossil been determined by such technique, it becomes easy to deduce the information about other erstwhile organisms. It seems that vertebrates have been slowly originated from invertebrates. Some plants and animals show some morphological characters by which they can be related to two different groups. Hence, they are called as connecting links. X. In Peripatus, characters like segmented body, thin cuticle, and parapodia like organs are present. Similarly, these animals show tracheal respiration and open circulatory system similar to arthropods. This indicates that Peripatus is connecting link between Annelida and arthropod. Similarly, duck-billed platypus lays eggs like reptiles but shows relationship with mammals too due to presence of mammary glands and hairs. Lungfish performs respiration with lungs irrespective of being fish. These examples indicate that mammals are evolved from reptiles and amphibians from fishes. Darwin's theory of natural selection. Charles Darwin had collected innumerable specimens of plants and animals, and depending upon the observations of those specimens, he published the theory of natural selection, which preaches the survival of fittest. For this purpose, Darwin had published a book titled Origin of Species. While explaining the concept, Darwin says that all the organisms reproduce prolifically. All the organisms compete with each other in a life-threatening manner. In this competition, only those organisms sustain which show the modifications essential for winning the competition. However, besides this, natural selection also plays important role because nature selects only those organisms which are fit to live and the rest perish. Sustaining and selected organisms can perform reproduction and thereby give rise to the new species with their own specific characters. Darwin's theory of natural selection was widely accepted for long duration. However, some objections were raised against the theory. Some of the main objections are: natural selection is not the only factor responsible for evolution. Darwin did not mention any explanation about useful and useless modifications. There is no explanation about slow changes and abrupt changes. Irrespective of all these objections, Darwin's work on evolution has been a milestone. Lamarckism. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck proposed that morphological changes occurring in living organisms are responsible for evolution, and the reason behind those morphological changes is activities or laziness of that organism. He called this concept his principle of use or disuse of organs. 1. 11 Giraffe. Development of organs due to specific activities or their degeneration due to no use at all was widely accepted, but transfer of those characters from generation to generation was rejected. Because it had been verified many times that modifications brought in us are not transferred to next generation, and thereby Lamarck's theory was disproved. The living organism can transfer the characters which it has acquired to the next generation. This is called ancestry of acquired characters. Speciation. Formation of new species of plants and animals is the effect of evolution. Species is the group of organisms that can produce fertile individuals through natural reproduction. Each species grows in specific geographical conditions. Their food, habitat, reproductive ability and period is different. However, genetic variation is responsible for formation of new species from earlier one. Besides, geographical and reproductive changes are also responsible. Similarly, geographical or reproductive isolation also leads to speciation human evolution. The biodiversity that is known today has been said to be formed from very simple unicellular organism due to evolution. In this evolution, origin of human evolution can be shown as per the picture given below. Last dinosaurs disappeared approximately 7 crore years ago. At that time, monkey-like animals are said to be evolved from some ancestors who were more or less similar to the modern lemurs. Tail of these monkey-like animals of Africa is said to be disappeared about 4 crore years ago. They developed due to enlargement in brain. Their hands were also improved and thus ape-like animals were evolved. Meanwhile, these ape-like animals reached the South and Northeast Asia and finally evolved into gibbon and orangutan. Remaining ape-like animals stayed in Africa and from them, gorilla and chimpanzee evolved about 2.5 crore years ago. Evolution of some of the 2 crore year old species of apes seems to be occurred in different way. They had to use their hands more for eating food and other work. 1. 12 Journey of human. Those apes started to live on land as the forest started to decline due to dry environment. Their pelvic girdle developed in such a way that they started to stand in erect posture in grasslands and thereby their hands became available for use anytime. These first human-like animals with erect posture which were using their hands have evolved about 2 crore years ago. First record of human-like animal is with us in the form of Ramapithecus ape from North India and East Africa. Afterwards, this ape grown up in size and became more intelligent and thus the ape of South Africa evolved about 40 lakh years ago. The morphology of these human-like animals started to appear like to be the member of the genus Homo, about 20 lakh years ago and thus skilled human developed. About 15 lakh years ago, human walking with erect posture was evolved. It may have existed in China and Indonesia of Asian continent. Evolution of upright man continued in the direction of developing its brain for the period of about 1 lakh years and meanwhile it discovered the fire. Brain of 50,000-year-old man had been sufficiently evolved to the extent that it could be considered as member of the class wise man, Homo sapiens. Neanderthal man can be considered as the first example of wise man. The Cro-Magnon man evolved about 50,000 years ago and afterwards, this evolution had been faster than the earlier. About 10,000 years ago, wise man started to practice the agriculture. It started to rear the cattle herds and established the cities. Cultural development took place. Art of writing was invented about 5,000 years ago and thus the history had been started. Modern sciences emerged about 400 years ago and industrial society was established about 200 years ago and now we have reached at this stage. And still we are searching the details of roots of human ancestry.